He shot a goddess, thinking it was an animal. What happened next will shock you.
It was a cold afternoon in the village of Onunu. The breeze blew calmly and the leaves on the trees danced to the direction of the wind. Botwe, a young hunter, came out of his little house. He checked the climatic condition and it was calm and best time to hunt. He went back inside and came out with his gun and little sack, then left his house. He made a stop in the house of his friend and fellow hunter Danso. Danso, Danso, Botwe called from outside. Danso came out of the house looking tired. Botwe asked Danso to follow him for a hunt, but Danso told Botwe that he wasn't feeling too well. "I hope you get better soon, my friend," Botwe said to Danso and left with his gun. Botwe entered into the bush and it was so calm. Only chirping sounds of birds were heard. He continued walking into the bush looking for the unlucky animal which will go back dead with him. The more Botwe treaded cautiously into the bush, the more it seemed like he wasn't going to have a catch. Botwe searched for a long time, but no animal was on sight. Botwe heard the squeak of a squirrel. He turned and there was a squirrel clashing its teeth against what it had in its hand. "Finally," he said softly and pointed his gun towards the squirrel. The squirrel saw Botwe and ran off quickly. Instead of running and hiding up the tree as most squirrels do, this squirrel took off instead. Botwe followed the squirrel swiftly as it kept running. Botwe knew the bush so well because he was a hunter. He had nothing to fear and he just kept running after the squirrel. After a while, Botwe couldn't find the squirrel anymore. He tried making no noise, trying to hear where the squirrel had run into. A brushing noise was made among the leaves and Botwe located the squirrel. He tried to shoot again and the squirrel ran off. Botwe made up his mind that he was never going to let the squirrel go. He continued chasing after it, going deeper into the forest. After a long chase, the squirrel suddenly started running towards Botwe. Botwe was surprised, but he stood his ground and pointed his gun at the squirrel charging towards him. Something else immediately got the attention of Botwe. It was an animal he hasn't seen before. It looked like a tiger, but it wasn't a tiger. Botwe left the squirrel to run off and it pointed its gun at the animal standing in front of him. It stopped immediately it saw Botwe pointing a gun towards it. Botwe got scared. He started taking few steps backwards while still having a firm grip on his gun. The tiger-looking animal came forward with every backward step Botwe took. It was gnarling at Botwe. Botwe slipped and fell down. The animal seized the opportunity and charged towards him. It jumped on top of Botwe, who fired at it, but it had already buried its strong canine into Botwe's shoulders. The animal then fell off after Botwe had shot at it. Botwe stood up in pains. The canine of the animal had dug deep into his shoulders and he was bleeding. He removed his clothes and tried stopping the bleed with it, but it won't stop. Botwe dragged the animal, which was very heavy, with one hand and started heading towards the village. He was in so much pain and the distance to the village was still far away. Botwe kept pushing with all his might as he kept bleeding out. He became so weak. He couldn't move any further. Then he fell on the floor and passed out. "My mother said I will greet. Inini. I'm a child of destiny," she said. Inini. "I don't know who I am. Inini. She said I'm the light. Inini." A melodious voice kept singing, and Botwe could hear it from his unconsciousness. After a few minutes, Botwe opened his eyes. He checked for the wound on his shoulder and found out it was no more. He was completely healed with no trace. Bewildered, Botwe stood up and he could still hear the melodious voice sing. He began to trace the voice to know who was singing such a melodious voice which just healed him. As Botwe kept closing in on the voice, he walked stealthily so as not to be detected by who was singing. Botwe looked from the bush and there was a young girl. She was sitting alone by the stream. She looked as beautiful as her voice. Her eyes sparkled and radiated so much beauty. Botwe was lost in admiration. He fell off the branch he was holding. The young girl turned and saw a man. She stood up immediately and ran off. Botwe tried calling her back, but she wouldn't stop. She ran into the bush and Botwe didn't see her anymore. It was as if she just disappeared.
Botwe went back to the animal he had killed and carried it on his shoulders. He was perfectly healed. He picked up his gun and left for the village. The whole village celebrated Botwe for killing such big animal. When Danso came to congratulate his friend, Botwe held Danso by his hand and took him to a corner away from the villagers. "I almost lost my life, my friend. That animal had buried its teeth into my shoulders and I was about to bleed to death," Botwe said. "But your shoulders are okay, or do I have eye problem?" Danso asked, looking at Botwe's 2 shoulders which didn't have a scratch on them. "That's what I'm trying to tell you. Back inside the thick bush, I heard this voice sing sweet melodies as my life was draining out. It was as if she had healed me with her song." "Who healed you? How did she heal you with just a song? Where is she? Did you come back with her?" Danso kept asking inquisitively. "No, she took off before I could even get to talk to her. I will go back in search of her tomorrow," Botwe said, heaving a sigh. "If a girl can sing and someone almost dead come back to life, then I think I just hit the jackpot," Danso thought within himself. "I'll go with you in search of her tomorrow," Danso said to Botwe with a smile. All through the night, Botwe couldn't sleep. He lay on his bed with so many questions. Who was the beautiful girl I saw? Why was she at the river? Is she a mermaid? Why did she disappear into the forest? Is she a ghost? Why did she run immediately she saw me? How did her song heal me?